What has been my biggest breakthrough in trade? I'll tell you right now. I've come a long way from the first time where I've started learning candlestick patterns, trend lines, uptrends, downtrends, breaker structure, all these other confluences in the market. And I came to one point where I just wanted to give up. All I wanted to do was just give up. I didn't think that this wasn't going to work out. And yeah, I just thought that, trading was just one of those things where I just couldn't learn. Going to school, I always had trouble learning new concepts, and I always had trouble, maintaining a good grade and handing in my homework, so I don't know how I was going to make this work out for myself. The first time when I tried learning how to trade for the first time, I just couldn't do it. I remember I stayed up so late at night watching like this 1 hour video. No, it wasn't even a 1 hour video. It was like a 13-hour video explaining everything you needed to know about the market and all these confluences that you had to learn. And I just tried learning it, and I just tried taking all these notes down, and it was just such an information overload where I just couldn't hold the information in my head, and I just couldn't like put myself in a place where I can actually understand what was going on. And I just felt like, I was just dumb, I was just stupid, and I didn't have what it took to actually make this into something that I could actually learn and something that I could actually do. So, so that's kind of where I thought that I couldn't do it. That's kind of where I thought that it wouldn't have worked out for me. But first time I started actually learning how to day trade, and I first started making actual like progress, real progress too, was in November. I actually started in September for the first 4 days, and then I gave up. And then I came back to it on the 1st of November, and I decided to try things, I tried giving it a shot. And on that day, on the first day of November, when I opened up TGR's boot camp and I just started learning from him, I was like, man, I can relate to this guy so much, Not even looking at it from a trading standpoint, just relating to him on like a personal base. Like, I can relate to him with my life to his. Like, obviously, I didn't grow up around in the best environment. I didn't have things handed to me. I really didn't have anybody to learn from. So having that opportunity to learn from TJR has been the best thing that's ever happened to me. As goofy as a person he might seem to be, or he makes himself to be, he actually is just a really down to earth person. And I found myself being able to connect to him super duper easily, and the things that I can just relate to him on was just, it was refreshing. That person has a massive influence, and he's just like a big person in the trading world. Being able to relate to him really did help me on my journey. To actually make day trading like one of the things that I want to do in life. So I basically learned off him that month of November. That first month of November, man, I was down. I was down in the trenches. I was like, man, is this really gonna work out? I was like, in my mind, I was battling myself. It was like a war in my head, thinking that things wouldn't have worked out for me. I was in places where I wanted to give up, but I just kept pushing through. Like, I was just so dialed in. I remember every single day of that month, every single week that I spent in that month was just purely dedicated to trading and trading alone. I stopped going to the gym, I forgot about my diet, I stopped hanging out with my friends, I stopped doing all these things just to put 4, 5, 6 hours into one day, just trying to learn the confluences, just trying to study the market, trying to make, sense of things, because, you know, I'm a slow learner. For me, it takes a really long time to grasp one single concept and to actually remember it, understand how it works, and know how to apply it in the actual context that it's used in, right? For me, that was the big challenge. I spent I spent that whole month where it would have taken somebody else maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks to learn all those confluences. But for me, it took twice, maybe 3 times that amount of time, and I had to just push through it. And it's just so frustrating. Like, for me, I remember it was just so frustrating to just try and learn a concept. And I just didn't have the patience. I just wanted to give up because I couldn't even learn simple things. But day in, day out, I put in my hours. At least I tried learning one new concept per day, or I tried understanding how a certain thing would actually work. I would always, after learning that concept, I would just try and put it into the charts. I would just, as soon as I learn it, pause the video, open up TradingView, and just try and spot areas in the market where that concept is used in, or maybe you might see that thing in play on the actual candlesticks. And I would really just try and apply it as soon as I learned it, as soon as it was fresh in my brain, so that I would be able to solidify my understanding of the actual concepts. That's what I would do every single day. That's what I did every single day out of the week. And every single week, I would just review everything. I would read over my notes, and I would do that for the rest of November. So that's what I ended up doing. That helped me a lot. Seeing progress like that helped me, and it made me realize that yes, this is actually possible. Looking at myself, I'm definitely not the smartest person in the room. I'm not the richest person in the room. I'm not the most knowledgeable person in the room. I guess in a way that kind of taught me a lesson. It just taught me to stay humble, and taught me to just push through things even though you might not see the results now. It'll compound. It has this compounding effect where if you just keep learning and practicing that skill, eventually you'll just get better and better. I would say that I am in the middle of seeing that right now. I would say that I'm seeing myself improve drastically in terms of trading, and I never thought that this would be possible, but here we are now. So I feel like that entire month of November was just where I was just in the trenches, and I just had to have this. I had to adapt this system. I had to adapt this certain mindset, this almost delusional self-belief mindset, where I just had to tell myself that yes, no matter what happens, this is going to work out in the end. So having a strong mentality is definitely going to help yourself push through all these tough times, all the trials and tribulations that you might be facing. The only thing that'll save you in this world is yourself. There's nobody's going to come out to save you, and that is one of the things that, that's the biggest thing to me. Like, I realized that from a very young age. Nobody's ever going to help you in life. You might think that your mom or your dad or your siblings or people who are very, very close to you, that they're going to save you, and sometimes they're not going to save you. Sometimes they can't even save you. Really, at the end of the day, you only have you. It's just you, yourself, and it's God. You really just have to push through all these things, and push through it and ask for God's guidance, because he knows what he has in store for you, and he's got the right path for you. So that's probably one of the biggest things I could say. Throughout that entire month of November, I just pushed through. That entire month of November, I just dedicated strictly towards learning these confluences. And then once I learned all those confluences, I built enough confidence to actually go make myself my own strategy. So in December, I think around the first few days of December was when I started actually going into the charts, seeing what session was good, trying to build a strategy, try and build these rules where it's like, okay, I have one session, I should only have one session, I should only have a strict amount of a certain time frame where I'm trading with, either that be like the first hour, first 2 hours of my trading window, and finding out what your trading window is. Put together the things that you learned, all these confluences, using them as tools to actually build a foundation, build that strategy, stick into those strategy by having a set of rules that you follow. So it's just by having the strategy, having the right rules, and putting them together is where, you have your recipe for success. And the only thing where it could all go wrong is, your mindset. Not having patience in the market, not being disciplined enough to actually follow your rules, and not having confidence in your setup. You have to be able to get to the point where you've used your strategy so many times that you trust it, right? You have to trust your setup, you have to trust your strategy that it's going to work, and you have to follow your rules, okay? That's probably the most important thing about trading, is following your rules, having the right psychology, and having good risk management. Because if you don't have those things in check, well then, guess what? You're never going to be a profitable trader. That's probably as raw and as plain and as flat out as I could put it. It's just those three things. Once you have them in check, then you can finally start seeing results, and you can start compounding these small wins, and eventually it'll lead you to success. It'll lead you to that life you've always been dreaming about. It'll lead you to the achievements and the goals that you've planned for yourself, and you'll achieve them if you stick to these rules. Yeah, you just have to be very strict with yourself, because you're not going to have a boss anymore, and you're not going to have anybody to tell you what you need to do and what has to get done. You're your own boss, so you need to tell yourself what you have to do, and you have to listen to the rules that you made for yourself. So that's the way that things work now. That's how it works when you trade. You don't have a boss that tells you what to do. You're your own boss, and you have to follow the things that you wrote down, and you have to stick with it so that you can see actual results. Build your strategy, stick to your rules, never break them, and do that consistently until you're able to see your first bit of success. Once you get to that point, you'll understand the things that you've been doing right, and you'll understand the things that you've been doing wrong. And once you go back into your backtesting data, you'll see that you wrote down, oh, okay, so I rushed this trade because I wasn't patient enough. Things like that. I wasn't sticking to my rules. So what would you do instead? You'll stick to your rules. You won't rush a trade. You won't force yourself into a position to take a trade, because you have more confidence in your setup. So those are the things that I wanted to talk about. Sorry for all that freaking word mumbo jumbo, talking too fast thing. I'm just trying to get my thoughts out there. Yeah, so that was pretty much what December looked like for me. I was just applying the strategy, trying to backtest as well as I can, but it still didn't kind of make sense to me. So November, I learned all the concepts. December was when I actually properly solidified them, because I started applying them more into the market and under actual live market conditions. So during November, I understood what concepts to apply, how to actually spot them in the charts, and they made a lot more sense to me because I had more of that actual experience. To backtest, and I was super confused. I was looking at backtesting templates, I was looking at all these different things, and none of them made sense to me. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to make my own template, because none of this makes any sense. So I went on to Notion, and I just created my own backtesting template. I've got everything in there, not only my backtesting data, but also the goals and that I set out for myself in trading, my rules, my strategy, all that type of stuff. So that's just all under one website, all under, one journal. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I just have it there. And then, yeah, so January, I first started learning how to backtest properly, so I had that template solidified. All the data that I would have during my trade, before my trade, after my trade, I would just put it there, and I just fill everything out. So that's been helping me out a lot. If you're trading and you aren't backtesting, then I'm sorry. I have no idea what you're doing. You're basically just telling yourself, I don't want to make progress. I don't want to make any progress at all. And I'm just here to trade for fun, and I don't want to be profitable, and I just want to stay poor for the rest of my life. If you are trading and you're not backtesting, what are you doing? Like, please. If you trade, backtest after every single trade that you take. Put down your emotions, how you felt entering before the trade, how you felt during the trade, and how you felt after the trade. And put down the things that you did well, the things that you didn't do well, the mistakes that you made, and how you can improve from them going forward. It's just that having the right system in place makes things so much more easier, and coming back to it at the end of the week and reviewing all your progress, you'll just have a lot more clarity. You'll be able to improve the way you trade, not only psychologically, but also through the charts as well. You might increase your risk to reward. your win rate throughout the entire time you trade. So that's why backtesting is super duper important. I can't stress that enough. Backtesting is very important. You should backtest if you trade. So that's what January looked like for me. Now we're in February. I'm just giving you guys a full-on breakdown of everything that has happened right until where I started trading up until now. Okay, so today's the 23rd of February. I'm probably going to upload this video on the 24th, depending on where you guys are. For me, it's the 24th. Maybe for you, it's going to be the 23rd. So yeah, okay, so February, right? February is the month that I've made the most progress. So just a quick recap. November, I learned all the concepts. December, I started applying it under live market conditions. January, I made a backtesting template. I started backtesting all my trades, but it was still kind of iffy. February was when I honed down my strategy. I reinforced it with all the rules that I made for myself. I really just made my strategy 10 times better, so it's bulletproof now, and I'm sticking to it no matter what happens. And also in February, I learned how to actually backtest proper data. I learned how to backtest consistently. So I was backtesting consistently. I've got a nice amount of trades just lined up in my backtesting trading journal. What else happened during February as well? My psychology has improved over the past month. I trust my setup a lot more now that I've seen those past results. So it has that history of giving me back this RR. I've got a consistent win rate of around 60%. It would be higher if I didn't. I had 3 trades that I missed, 2 from being drunk during my trip in Japan. And I tried actually taking one of those trades in the club. And then the third one was because it was a Friday and I thought that the markets were closed, but they were actually open. So that was just a personal error. That was just a me problem. So it was not anything like I wasn't following my rules. It was just because I just lacked the discipline to actually stay focused to what I was really supposed to get done. And I hold myself accountable for that. There's nobody else to blame but me. So yeah, that's kind of where I lacked. I definitely have to improve on that. But we're definitely getting there. During this past month of during this month of February, I've just been, constantly, honing down that strategy, taking proper trades, high probability trades as well, and following my rules. I've been doing a good job of doing that for a month now. So I'm gonna go back into my trading journal. I just want to quickly look at how many trades I've taken so far. So I've taken 20 trades from, when did I start? I started on the 28th of January, 28th of January up until now, which is the 20th of February. On the weekends, obviously, markets are closed, so that's what's up. Holy flashbang. Okay. Yeah, so that's what's been happening. Market opens in like 3.5 hours, so I definitely got to get to that soon. But that's probably, that's basically what's been happening. That's all that's been happening. Yeah, I remember also in Japan. Okay, my first real breakthrough was in Japan, and I'll never forget it. My first real breakthrough was in Japan, and I remember it up until now. Like, I still remember it because it was probably the most memorablest, I don't even know if that's a word, one of the most memorablest memories throughout my entire trip. Basically one of the highlights of my trip. I remember, like, it was Thursday. It was Thursday, and we just got back from the club. The clubs, they closed at 5. We stayed there until the very end. So we got kicked out at 5, and then all my friends went home. It was already 7. I just remembered going back to our Airbnb at like 7 in the morning. Everybody's just getting their day started. My boys, they're going to sleep because we just had a crazy night out. And I took my stuff. I took my laptop. I took my journal. I took my notepad, my pen, my pencil, my laptop case, everything. My charger, my phone, everything. I took it all with me, put it in my bag, and then I walked down from our Airbnb like 10 minutes to the internet cafe, like that one spot that I always just love going to. I had music playing through my AirPods, and I was just listening to Japanese music. It was such a vibe. Anyways, got to the internet cafe, and I just remembered I just stayed there and I just waited for market to open again. And I was just writing down my goals, the things that I wanted in life. Like why? Why am I doing this? I had to ask myself, why am I doing this? Why am I trading? And I wrote it all down. I wanted to change my life. I wanted this freedom, even if it wasn't guaranteed. I just wanted to chase it as much as I could with all my heart, with all my effort. No matter what would happen in my life, I just promised to myself, like, man, I was at a different place at that time. Like, I just remember, bro, I just want this so bad. I want this to work out so bad. Nobody understands that I have trouble sleeping at night. Just thinking about that life that I could live. Yeah, I just really wanted it that badly, where I just can't even sleep at night. Like, I'm just thinking about all these things I can do, all the steps that I can take to actually reach that end goal. But I stayed there until 12, until market open. And it was like the first 2 hours of New York market open, I was like, oh, damn, I could take a trade off that. And then I realized that I would have gotten stopped out if I took that trade, because that was a trade where I would have taken if I hadn't followed my rules. So I just waited and I waited, and then 3 hours into market open, I saw like a reversal. I saw a liquidity sweep, a break of structure, and my confluences all lined up perfectly. And I saw a retest that area, and I entered off that retest and kind of close out of that confluence. And then I targeted, previous swing high, like that internal liquidity. Like, after, market moving, it had so much momentum, it had so much volume during that moment, where it just hit my take profit in like less than 15 minutes. So it was kind of crazy that that happened to me, because for me, that it showed me what was possible in trading, and it showed me these things that you can actually accomplish if you stay focused enough, if you just stick to your rules and you stay disciplined, and you just really just, man, if you just believe in yourself, if you just believe in yourself, even when no one can, if you believe in yourself, then you can take yourself anywhere in life. Like, you can just, man, you can take yourself out of the trenches. It's your fault if you want to stay in them. You can change your life. You can take action, change your life for the better, and improve. And you can live that life you want. But you have to believe in yourself. Nobody else can believe in you for you. You have to take yourself. You have to take action. And you have to want it enough to make it happen. So after that, I took that trade. After it hit my take profit, man, I was like, damn. Even though it was just like paper trading, it's not like actual money. For me, that's not what mattered. What mattered to me was that I finally had a strategy that worked consistently. And I realized that this wasn't chance. I realized that, like, this is actually possible, and that I can make this work. And having those consistent results made me realize that it all finally paid off. Like, it all paid off. Those hours that I spent staying up during November, just trying to learn these confluences, just trying to actually make myself understand these things as a slow learner. The 5 hours that I would spend every single night for 4 weeks straight. For 4 weeks straight. The average person would have given up on the first week. Who knows, maybe even the first day of just trying to make this work. But for me, even though I was losing, like, I just wasn't even seeing any progress, I just stood strong for 4 weeks. And honestly, during those 4 weeks, I told myself that if I just kept on going, then future me would thank my past self. And honestly, I was right. Guess what? I was right. I'm in February right now, and I could not be any more grateful for where I was in November. If I given up, I would not have been where I am now. I would not be where I am now. So, I do thank my past self. I do thank the past version of me for pushing through, and for thinking that it would work out. Because guess what? It is slowly starting to work out. So right now, I'm going to make a promise to myself to keep going no matter what happens. And I know that future me, maybe the version of me in April. That's what's been the biggest breakthrough for me. Um, believing when nobody else believed in you, pushing through even when you don't see any results, and doing the things that you tell yourself that you're going to do, regardless of how you feel, and getting the things that you know needs to get done. You need to get those things done because nobody else is going to do it for you. And you need to hold yourself accountable to these things because nobody else is going to save you. That was my biggest breakthrough. For the past 3 months, that was my biggest breakthrough. Not only in trading, but probably my entire life. Because for the first time in my life, I showed myself what was possible. And I showed myself. And I genuinely just went in thinking that I would prove everybody else wrong. I went into this whole trading thing where it's like, oh, I'm going to make so much money, I'm going to prove all these people wrong. But in the pursuit of that, I found myself. And I found the real reason why I'm doing this. I found the actual reason why I'm doing this. And at the end, I'm just doing this for myself. I'm not happy with the way that I live now. I don't like the way my life is right now, so I'm gonna change the way things are for myself. So that's a promise I made for myself, and I'm gonna do everything in my power to get to that place. So thank you guys for watching my video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.